The galaxy was old. The species that ruled it were even older. They called themselves the Galactic Covenant, and they believed they knew what was best for everyone. They had rules for everything. Rules about which planets could join their alliance. Rules about which species were smart enough to matter. And rules about what to do with problems they did not want to solve. On a cold morning aboard the station called Bright Harbor, 3 alien judges sat in a white room and looked at a small human child sleeping in a glass box. The child was barely 2 years old. He had dark hair and small hands that curled into fists even while he slept. His name, according to the broken ship records they had found, was Teho. He was the only survivor. The colony ship that carried him had been traveling through deep space when its engine failed. The explosion killed everyone on board. Everyone except this small boy, who had been sleeping in an emergency pod when the ship broke apart. A Covenant patrol found the drifting wreckage 3 days later. They found the child crying inside the pod, hungry and alone, but alive. Now the judges had to decide what to do with him. "He is human," said the first judge, a tall creature with gray skin and 6 eyes. "Humans are not members of the Covenant. They are not our responsibility. We cannot simply throw him into space," said the second judge, who looked like a floating cloud of blue light. "That would be cruel." "Then what do you suggest?" asked the third judge. She had a face like a bird and feathers that changed color when she spoke. "No Covenant species will take him. Humans are from a Class 7 death world. They are violent, unpredictable, dangerous." The judges looked at the sleeping child. He did not look dangerous. He looked small and helpless. But the judges did not see a child. They saw a problem. And the Covenant had a simple solution for problems they could not solve politically. They disposed of them quietly. "There is an uninhabited planet in the nearby sector," said the first judge. "Kethros 9, we can place him there. If he survives, that is his fate. If he does not, then nature has made the decision for us." The other judges nodded slowly. This was acceptable. This was clean. No one would ask questions about one small human child. They did not bother to check what kind of planet Kethros 9 was. If they had, they might have chosen differently. But they did not care enough to look. 2 days later, a small pod fell through the orange sky of Kethros 9 and crashed into a field of black volcanic rock. Inside the pod, the child called Teho woke up and began to cry. Kethros 9 was not just uninhabited. It was a nightmare. The ground was made of sharp stone and hot ash. Volcanoes dotted the horizon, spitting fire and smoke into a sky that was never fully bright. The air was thick with poison that burned the lungs. Rivers of molten rock cut across the landscape like glowing scars. And everywhere, in every shadow and every cave, creatures waited. Creatures with teeth and claws and hunger. This planet did not welcome life. It tried to destroy it. The child climbed out of his broken pod and stood on shaking legs. He did not understand where he was. He did not understand why no one had come to help him. He only knew that he was alone, and he was scared, and he was very, very hungry. He started to walk. The first day, he found water in a crack between 2 rocks. It tasted bad, like metal and smoke, but he drank it anyway. The second day, he found small bugs under a stone and ate them because there was nothing else. The third day, a creature found him. It was called a stalker beast by the species that had mapped this world from orbit. It was 3 times the size of the child, with black scales and yellow eyes and a mouthful of teeth that could bite through metal. It moved without sound, sliding through the rocks like a shadow, until it was right behind the small human boy. Teho turned and saw it. He should have run. He should have screamed. He should have done anything except what he did. He picked up a rock and threw it at the creature's face. The rock hit the stalker beast in the eye. The creature roared in pain and surprise. It had hunted 1,000 prey on this planet, and none of them had ever fought back. For a moment, it hesitated. That moment was enough. A sound filled the air. It was like thunder, but deeper. Like the planet itself was growling. The stalker beast looked up, and its yellow eyes went wide with fear. Then it turned and ran, disappearing into the rocks faster than it had come. Taiho did not understand what had happened. He stood there, still holding another rock, his small body shaking. Then a shadow fell over him. A shadow so large it blocked out the dim sun. He looked up. She was enormous. Her body was covered in scales that shone like silver mirrors. Her wings stretched wider than the valley around them. Her eyes burned with light that looked like dying stars. She was ancient and powerful and terrifying. She was a dragon, or something close to it. The old species called her kind void serpents. They had existed before the Covenant, before starships, before most life in the galaxy had learned to walk. Her name was SideHFY, and she had watched this small creature for 3 days. She had watched him drink poison water and survive. She had watched him eat things that should have killed him. She had watched him face a predator twice his size and refuse to die. Now she landed before him, her massive head lowering until her eye was level with his face. She expected him to run. She expected him to scream. The child reached out and touched her nose. "Big," he said. Something ancient and frozen cracked inside her chest. For the first time in 10,000 years, SideHFY felt something she had forgotten existed. Hope. "Yes, little one," she said, her voice rumbling like distant thunder. "I am big, and you are very small. But perhaps we can change that together." She wrapped her wing around him, and for the first time since he had fallen from the stars, Taiho felt warm. The galaxy had thrown him away, but the Death World had given him a guardian. SideHFY had lived for a very long time. So long that she had forgotten what it felt like to be young. So long that she had watched stars be born and die. So long that nothing in the universe surprised her anymore. Until now, she carried the small human child to her home, a cave deep inside the largest mountain on Kethros 9. The cave was warm from the fire that burned in the planet's heart. Strange crystals grew from the walls, glowing with soft blue light. It was the only safe place on this entire world. She set the child down gently on a bed of soft ash. He was already asleep, exhausted from his days of survival. His small chest rose and fell with each breath. His face, even in sleep, looked determined. SideHFY watched him for a long time. She remembered when she was not alone. Long ago, there had been others like her. Void serpents who flew between the stars, who played in the light of newborn suns, who sang songs that made planets tremble. But that was before the Covenant rose to power. Before they decided that some creatures were too dangerous to exist. The Covenant had not killed her kind directly. They were too smart for that. Instead, they simply erased them from history. They destroyed any record of the Void Serpents. They quarantined the planets where they lived. They waited patiently for time to do what weapons could not. One by one, her brothers and sisters had faded away. Some died. Some flew so far into the dark spaces between galaxies that they never returned. Some simply gave up and let themselves turn to stone. SideHFY had chosen to hide. She had found this terrible planet, this place so hostile that no one would ever come looking. And she had stayed here for 10,000 years, alone, forgotten, waiting for something she could not name. Now, looking at this tiny creature who had been thrown away just like her kind had been thrown away, she finally understood what she had been waiting for, a reason to care again. The child woke up hungry. SideHFY had already prepared food for him. She had caught a small creature from the caves below and cooked it with her breath until the meat was soft and safe to eat. The child ate it all without complaint. "What is your name, little one?" She asked. The child looked up at her with big brown eyes. Taiho, he said. Taiho. She tested the word. It felt good in her mouth. I am SideHFY. Do you understand what has happened to you? The child shook his head. The creatures who found your ship decided you were not worth saving. They sent you here to die. She paused, watching his face. Does that make you sad? Taiho thought about this for a moment. Then he shrugged. They were mean, he said simply. I do not like mean people. SideHFY made a sound that might have been a laugh. It had been so long since she had laughed that she was not sure anymore. No, she agreed. Mean people are not worth liking. But what will you do now? This planet is very dangerous. You are very small. The child looked around the cave. He looked at the glowing crystals and the warm ash and the massive silver dragon watching over him. Then he looked back at SideHFY with a face that held no fear at all. Can I stay with you? He asked. The question hit her like a physical blow. Stay with her. This tiny, fragile, impossible creature wanted to stay with her. He was not afraid of her size or her teeth or her burning eyes. He simply saw someone who had helped him and wanted to be near her. When was the last time anyone had wanted to be near her? She could not remember. Yes, she said, and her voice was softer than she intended. You can stay with me, but you must understand something, little Taiho. I will not always be gentle with you. This world is hard, and if you want to survive here, you must become hard too. I will teach you things that will hurt. I will push you until you want to give up. I will make you into something the galaxy has never seen before. She lowered her head until her eye was level with his. Are you ready for that? Taiho reached out and put his small hand on her nose again. His touch was warm and soft and trusting. Okay, he said. And so it began. The first year was the hardest. SideHFY taught Taiho how to walk on the sharp rocks without cutting his feet. She taught him which plants were safe to eat and which would kill him. She taught him how to find water in a world where most water was poison. She taught him how to hide from the predators and how to fight the ones he could not hide from. He fell down many times. He got hurt many times. There were nights when he cried from pain and exhaustion, and SideHFY would wrap her wing around him and hum old songs in a language no one else remembered. But he never gave up. Not once. By the time he was 5, he could climb the mountains faster than any creature on the planet. By the time he was 7, he could survive alone in the wilderness for weeks. By the time he was 10, the predators had learned to fear him instead of hunting him. SideHFY watched him grow with pride she had not felt in millennia. You are special, Taiho, she told him one night as they sat together under the strange orange stars. Not because you are strong. Many creatures are strong. You are special because you refuse to accept the fate others have chosen for you. What do you mean? He asked. The Covenant decided you were worthless. They threw you away like garbage. But you did not die. You did not give up. You looked at this world that was supposed to kill you and said no. That is rare, little one. That is precious. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, were you thrown away too? The question surprised her. She had never told him about her past. But somehow, this child, who had grown up listening to her heartbeat, had understood anyway. Yes, she admitted. A long time ago. My kind was erased from history because the Covenant feared what we could do. I have been hiding here ever since. That is not fair, Taiho said. No, it is not. Then we should do something about it. SideHFY looked at him. He was just a child still, small and skinny and covered in scars. But his eyes held a fire that matched her own. What would you do? She asked. I do not know yet, he said honestly. But I will figure it out. I promise. SideHFY wrapped her wing around him and pulled him close. I believe you, she said. And for the first time in 10,000 years, she meant it. 15 years had passed since the small child fell from the sky. Taiho stood on the edge of a cliff, looking out over the burning landscape of Kethros 9. He was no longer small. He had grown tall and strong, his body shaped by years of survival on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. His arms were thick with muscle. His skin was dark from the constant volcanic light and marked with scars from 100 battles. His eyes, once soft and brown, now held a light that looked almost like fire. Behind him, SideHFY rested on a flat stone, her silver scales catching the glow of the distant volcanoes. She watched her human with something like pride. "You have become strong," she said. Taiho turned to face her. He smiled, and for a moment, he looked like the small boy she had found so many years ago. "I had a good teacher. Strength is not enough." SideHFY rose to her full height, her wings spreading wide. "The Covenant has ships that can destroy planets. They have weapons that can crack moons in half. If you want to face them, you need more than muscle. I know." Taiho walked toward her. "That is why you have been teaching me the other things." The other things. That was what they called it. The knowledge that SideHFY had carried for thousands of years. The secrets that the Covenant had tried to erase from history that long ago. Before the Covenant existed, there were beings who understood the true nature of the universe. They knew that everything was connected. Every star, every planet, every living creature was part of the same vast web of energy. Those who learned to feel this connection could do incredible things. SideHFY called it the old power. The Covenant called it dangerous. For 10 years, SideHFY had taught Taiho how to feel the energy that flowed through all things. It started with small exercises. Sensing the heat of the planet beneath his feet. Feeling the movement of air before a storm arrived. Listening to the heartbeat of creatures from miles away. Then came the harder lessons. "Close your eyes," SideHFY commanded. Taiho obeyed. He stood perfectly still on the cliff edge, the wind pulling at his hair. Feel the fire beneath the mountain. It has been burning for 1,000,000 years. It will burn for 1,000,000 more. That fire is not separate from you. It is part of the same energy that keeps your heart beating. Do you understand? Yes, then call it. Taiho breathed deeply. He reached down with his mind, past the stone and rock, into the heart of the volcano below. He could feel the fire there, ancient and hungry and alive. He touched it with his thoughts, and it answered. His hands began to glow. Red light spread up his arms, pulsing like a second heartbeat. The air around him grew hot. The rocks at his feet began to smoke. Then he opened his eyes and released the energy. A beam of pure heat shot from his palm, cutting through the air like a blade of light. It struck a boulder 100 meters away and melted it instantly into glowing liquid. Taiho let his arms fall. The light faded from his skin. "Good," SideHFY said. "But you are still holding back. You are afraid of the power. I am afraid of hurting you." The dragon made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Little one, I have flown through the hearts of dying stars. You cannot hurt me. Now stop being careful and show me what you can really do." Taiho looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. He closed his eyes again. But this time, he did not just reach for the fire in the volcano. He reached for everything. The heat in the air, the energy in the wind, the light from the distant sun, the power that hummed in every atom of this terrible, beautiful world. He pulled it all into himself. When he opened his eyes, they were burning white. The ground shook. Cracks spread across the cliff like spider webs. The air itself seemed to catch fire, swirling around Taiho in a tornado of heat and light. For one perfect moment, he was not a man standing on a rock. He was a force of nature. Then he let it go. The energy exploded outward in all directions. The cliff shattered. Boulders flew into the air, A wave of heat washed across the landscape, turning sand to glass for a mile in every direction. When the dust cleared, SciFi was standing in a crater. He was breathing hard, but he was smiling. SciFi flew down to land beside him. Her eyes were shining. "Now," she said softly, "you are ready." That night, they sat together in their cave and talked about the future. "The Covenant thinks they are safe," SciFi said. "They have been rulers of the galaxy for so long that they have forgotten what it means to be challenged. They have grown soft and arrogant." "What about the other quarantined worlds?" SciFi asked. "You said there are hundreds of them. Species that were locked away because the Covenant feared them." "Yes, the Covenant calls them dangerous. They call them monsters. But most of them are simply different. They evolved on hard worlds, like your Earth, like this place. They are strong and strange, and that frightens the Covenant." SciFi was quiet for a moment. "Those species must feel the same way I did. Thrown away, forgotten, told they were worthless. Many of them have given up hope entirely. Then we need to give them hope again." SciFi looked at him. "That is a big task for one human. I am not just one human." SciFi smiled and put his hand on her silver scales. "I have a dragon. And besides, I do not want to conquer the Covenant. I do not want revenge. I just want to open the doors they have locked. I want to show everyone that the galaxy's judgment does not define them. And if the Covenant tries to stop you?" SciFi's eyes grew hard. The fire flickered behind them. "Then I will teach them what a Deathworld child can do." SciFi nodded slowly. She had watched empires rise and fall. She had seen 1,000 would-be heroes make grand promises and fail. But something about this boy, this man, was different. He did not want power. He did not want glory. He simply wanted to undo a great wrong. "We will need a ship," she said. "Something that can carry us between the stars. Can you build one?" SciFi spread her wings and smiled, showing rows of teeth that gleamed like diamonds. "I can do better than build one. I can grow one." She led him deeper into the caves than he had ever been. And there, in a chamber filled with crystals and light, she showed him something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was a ship. But not like any ship he had ever imagined. It was alive, grown from the same material as her scales, shaped like a serpent with wings of volcanic glass. It pulsed with soft light, as if it was breathing. "I started growing it the day I found you," SciFi said quietly. "I did not know why. I only knew that someday we would need it." SciFi stared at the ship in wonder. "It is beautiful," he whispered. "It is the beginning," SciFi corrected. "The beginning of everything." She was right. The Covenant-signed ship Eternal Wisdom was floating peacefully in orbit around a dead moon when everything changed. Captain Mira was sitting in her command chair, reading reports about mineral deposits when her sensor officer made a strange sound. It was something between a gasp and a scream. "Captain," the officer said, his voice shaking. "Something is coming out of Kethros 9. Captain Mira frowned. "That is impossible. Nothing lives on Kethros 9. It is a Class 7 death world." "I know, Captain. But something is definitely coming. And it is coming fast." Myra looked at her screen. Her blood went cold. The ship rising from the planet looked like nothing in any Covenant database. It was shaped like a serpent, with wings made of what looked like black glass. It moved through space without any visible engines, leaving a trail of silver light behind it. And it was heading directly toward them. "Shields up," Myra ordered. "Send a message to Covenant Command. Tell them we have contact with an unknown vessel." Before she could say anything else, the strange ship was already alongside them. It had crossed the distance between the planet and their orbit in less than 30 seconds. Nothing in the Covenant fleet could move that fast. Then her communications officer went pale. "Captain, They are requesting to dock with us. Absolutely not. Tell them to keep their distance or we will fire. I already did, Captain. They said. The officer swallowed hard. They said they are coming aboard whether we like it or not. And they said we should not make this difficult. Myra opened her mouth to give the order to fire. But before she could speak, every line on her ship went dark. Every console, every screen, every system shut down at once. Emergency power did not come on. The ship was completely dead dot in the darkness. She heard the sound of an airlock opening. When the lights came back on 3 minutes later, there was a man standing in the middle of her bridge. He was tall and broad, wearing armor made from some kind of black scales. His skin was dark and covered with scars. His eyes held a light that made Myra's stomach twist with fear. He looked human, but no human she had ever seen looked like this. Behind him, visible through the bridge windows, something enormous coiled around the ship. Something silver and ancient and impossible. A dragon. An actual dragon, wrapping itself around her vessel like a snake around a mouse. Who are you? Myra managed to say. The man smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was almost friendly. That made it worse somehow. My name is SciFi, he said. 17 years ago, your covenant found me on a broken ship. I was just a child. The only survivor. Do you know what they did with me? Myra shook her head slowly. They decided I was not worth saving. They put me in a pod and sent me to Kethros 9 to die. He spread his arms, indicating himself, the dragon outside, everything. As you can see, I did not die. What do you want? Right now? Just the coordinates to your nearest Covenant station. I have a message I would like to deliver. I cannot give you that information. It is classified. SciFi tilted his head. Captain, I disabled your entire ship with a thought. I have a void serpent wrapped around your hull who could crush you into dust if I asked her nicely. I am trying very hard to be polite about this. Please, do not make me be impolite. Myra looked at her crew. They were all frozen in their seats, too scared to move. She looked at the dragon outside the window, its burning eyes watching everything. She looked at the man in front of her, who radiated power like a sun radiates light. She gave him the coordinates. Thank you, SciFi said. He actually sounded grateful. Before I go, I want you to send a message. Send it everywhere. Every station, every ship, every planet that can receive it. Can you do that? Yes. Good. He pulled a small device from his belt and handed it to her. Play this. Make sure everyone hears it. Then he turned and walked back toward the airlock. He paused at the door. Your crew will be fine, he said. Your ship will start working again in about 10 minutes. I am not here to hurt anyone. I'm just here to change things. He left. The serpent ship pulled away from the eternal wisdom and disappeared into the darkness. Between stars, Myra sat in silence for a long moment. Then she pressed play on the device. SciFi's face appeared on every screen. My name is SciFi, the recording said. 17 years ago, the Galactic Covenant threw me away. They decided I was not worth saving because I was human. Because I came from a death world. Because I was different from them. The image shifted to show the planet Kethros 9, burning and terrible and beautiful. They sent me to this place to die. But I did not die. I survived. I grew strong. And I learned something important. The Covenant does not decide who has value. They do not get to choose who lives and who gets thrown away. The image changed again. Now it showed something that made Myra's heart stop. It showed hundreds of planets, all marked with the same symbol. The quarantine symbol. The sign that meant stay away. These creatures are too dangerous to exist. There are hundreds of worlds like this, SciFi continued. Hundreds of species that the Covenant locked away because they were afraid of them. They call these places dangerous. They call the beings who live there monsters. But they are wrong. These are survivors. These are fighters. These are people who refuse to die just because someone decided they should. His eyes seemed to look directly through the screen. I am coming for every locked door. I am coming to open every cage. And I am bringing friends. The image changed one final time. It showed Taiho standing on the wing of his serpent ship. Behind him, in the darkness of space, other shapes were beginning to appear. More serpents. Dozens of them. Ancient creatures that the Covenant had thought were extinct, emerging from the shadows between stars. To every abandoned child watching this message, Taiho said. To every species that was told they were worthless. To everyone who has ever looked at the stars and wondered if there was a place for them in this galaxy. You are not alone. You are not worthless. And you do not need their permission to exist. He smiled. The galaxy abandoned us. But we are still here. And now it is time to show them what that means. The recording ended. Captain Mira sat in her chair and stared at the blank screen. Around her, her crew was silent. Some of them looked scared. Some of them looked confused. But a few of them, she noticed, looked something else entirely. They looked hopeful. The message spread across the galaxy in hours. It reached every station, every colony, every ship. It reached the halls of the Covenant government, where old and powerful beings watched it with growing fear. And it reached the quarantined worlds, where creatures who had given up hope a long time ago watched it with tears in their eyes, on 100 different planets. Beings who had been told they were monsters looked up at the sky, and for the first time in generations, they began to dream of freedom. The Covenant called an emergency meeting. They assembled their greatest fleet. They prepared their most powerful weapons. They told themselves they could stop what was coming. They were wrong. The Covenant fleet was the largest ever assembled. 200 warships hung in the darkness of space, their weapons charged and ready. They had come from every corner of civilized space. They had come to crush this threat before it could spread. Admiral Haisung stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Order, and watched his forces take position. He was old and experienced. He had won a dozen wars. He had never lost a battle. He did not intend to start now. Report, he commanded. The target is waiting for us, Admiral. Just one ship. No sign of the serpents from the recording. Haisung frowned. The intelligence reports had shown dozens of the ancient creatures. Where were they? Show me. The main screen flickered to life. It showed an asteroid floating in empty space. And standing on that asteroid, without any suit or protection, was a single human figure. He is alone, Haisung said slowly. One man against 200 ships. Either he is insane, or he knows something we do not. Should we open fire, Admiral? Haisung considered it. It would be easy. One command, and this human would be dust. But something made him hesitate. The way the man stood there, so calm and confident. The way he seemed to be waiting for them. Open a channel, Haisung said. Let us hear what he has to say. The communication link crackled to life. Taiho, Haisung said. You have made a lot of noise these past few weeks. You have scared a lot of people. But it ends here. Surrender now, and I will make your death quick. Taiho's voice came through clear and steady. Admiral, I am not here to fight you. I am here to give you one chance to do the right thing. The right thing? You threaten our entire civilization, and you speak of the right thing? Your civilization is built on fear. You lock away anyone who is different. You throw away children who have no one to protect them. You erase entire species from history because you cannot control them. Taiho paused. That is not civilization. That is just cruelty dressed up in fancy clothes. You are a fool, Haisung spat. You are one man. We are 200 ships. What can you possibly do? I can show you the truth. Haisung opened his mouth to respond. But before he could speak, the space behind Taiho began to change. It started as a shimmer, like heat rising from hot stone. Then shapes began to appear. Silver shapes, enormous and ancient, unfolding from the darkness like flowers blooming in fast motion. The void serpents had arrived. Seola came first, her wings spreading until she was larger than the biggest Covenant dreadnought. But she was not alone. Behind her came dozens more, then hundreds. They had been hiding in the spaces between stars, in the dark places where light never reached. They had been waiting for this moment for 10,000 years. Admiral Haisung felt his blood turn to ice. That is not all, Taiho said. His voice was still calm, almost gentle. Look behind you. Haisung turned. Ships were appearing from every direction. They were not elegant or polished like Covenant vessels. They were rough and patched, held together by desperate hands and fierce hope. Ships from the quarantined worlds. Ships from species that had been locked away for generations. Ships that should not exist, crewed by beings who had been told they had no right to live. There were thousands of them. Every world you imprisoned, Taiho said. Every species you called monsters. Every child you threw away. They heard my message. They remembered what you did to them. And they came. Haisung stared at his tactical display. His 200 ships were now surrounded by an armada that stretched beyond the edge of his sensors. Ancient dragons from the dawn of time. Survivors from 100 death worlds. The abandoned and the forgotten, united against the ones who had cast them out. You have two choices, Taiho continued. You can fight. Your ships will be destroyed. Your crews will die. And nothing will change, because there are more of us than you can ever defeat. Or you can stand down. Let us pass. Watch as we open every door and break every chain. And then decide what kind of galaxy you want to live in. Silence fell across the communication channel. Admiral Haisung was not a coward. He had faced death many times. But he was also not stupid. He looked at his fleet. He looked at the army surrounding them. He thought about the millions of lives under his command. And he made a choice. All ships, he said quietly. Stand down. Power down weapons. Return to base. His officers stared at him in shock. Admiral. Do it, Haisung said. This war was lost before it started. We just did not know it yet. The Covenant fleet began to pull back. One by one, the great warships turned and retreated into the darkness. No shots were fired. No blood was spilled. The largest military force in galactic history surrendered without a fight. Taiho watched them go. Then he turned to face the army of the abandoned. Thank you for coming, he said. I know many of you have been waiting for this moment your whole lives. I know how angry you must be. I know how much pain the Covenant has caused. But we are not here for revenge. We are here to build something better. He raised his hand and pointed toward the distant stars. The quarantine zones end today. Every locked door opens. Every prison world becomes free. You can return to the galaxy. You can build homes and raise families and look at the sky without fear. The communication channels erupted with voices. Cheers and cries and sounds that could not be translated. Species who had never met each other celebrated together. Ancient enemies wept side by side. Seowo landed beside Taiho, her massive form somehow graceful on the small asteroid. You did it, she said softly. You actually did it. We did it, Taiho corrected. I could not have done any of this without you. The dragon made a sound that might have been a laugh. You gave me something to care about again. That is worth more than any victory. 6 months later, the galaxy looked different. The Covenant still existed, but it had changed. New species joined its councils. New voices spoke in its chambers. The old ways were fading, slowly but surely, replaced by something more fair. The quarantine zones were gone. The abandoned worlds had formed their own alliance, called the Free Worlds Accord. They did not ask permission from anyone. They simply existed, side by side with the older civilizations, proving that different did not mean dangerous. Taeho refused every title they tried to give him. He did not want to be a king or a president or a supreme leader. He just wanted to make sure no one would ever be thrown away again. He returned to Kethros 9 with SideHFY. The volcanic planet was still harsh and deadly, but now ships came and went regularly. Representatives from 100 worlds visited to learn, to listen, to understand. One evening, a small girl approached him. She was from a species that had been quarantined for 300 years. Her skin was blue and her eyes were too large, and she had been rescued from a prison world just a month ago. "Are you the one who freed us?" she asked in a tiny voice. Taeho knelt down to her level. "I helped. But really, you freed yourselves. You survived when they wanted you to disappear. That takes more courage than anything I ever did." The girl looked up at SideHFY, who was watching from nearby. "Is that your dragon?" "She's not mine. She is my friend. My family. Can I have a friend like that?" Taeho smiled and put his hand on her shoulder. "You can have any kind of family you want. That is what being free means. You get to choose who you love and who loves you back. No one else gets to decide that for you." The girl thought about this. Then she smiled back. "I think I would like that." Taeho stood and watched her run off to join the other children who were exploring the caves. Children from dozens of different species, playing together like they had known each other forever. SideHFY moved closer to him. "You look happy." "I am." He took a deep breath of the hot, sulfur-tinged air. "For the first time in my life, I think I actually am. What will you do now?" Taeho looked up at the sky, where stars twinkled through the volcanic haze. Somewhere out there, creatures were taking their first steps outside the prisons that had held them for generations. Somewhere out there, children were looking up at the same stars and dreaming of futures that had been impossible just a year ago. "I will keep watching," he said. "Keep helping. Keep making sure that when someone falls, there is someone there to catch them." He smiled at the dragon who had caught him. "The way you caught me." SideHFY wrapped her wing around him, just like she had done on his very first night on this planet. "Then let us watch together," she said. "For as long as it takes." Above them, the stars burned bright. And for the first time in a very long time, they looked like Hope. The galaxy had abandoned a child. The Death World gave him a dragon guardian, and together, they changed everything.